rebranding, and there was a lot of mixed opinions regarding the rebranding. Essentially, the question was, if this is such a well-established logo, this is such a well-established company, what's the purpose of rebranding it? What's the purpose of putting something different in the public eye that's a little bit harder to interpret, or they might miss it as they've understood Twitter and the bird for so long. So what Elon decided to do is, in this giant exodus of employees that he decided to commit, he actually decided to have an entire rebirth of the company in its entirety. So not only changing the name of Twitter to the letter X, but also changing the logo from the blue bird that everybody recognizes for the last decade to the letter X with a slight turn. So it essentially signified for him this new beginning of social media, going from the old way of doing things where there was a lot of restrictions surrounding what's allowed to be shared, what opinions are okay and which ones are not, into this new free speech, open opinion, everybody's allowed to say what they want. Essentially, what social media was originally intended to be. And what ended up happening was, because of that rebranding, there was a lot more attention brought to X and Twitter, essentially keeping a lot of the users that were already there on the site itself. Um, Another idea was the fact that the logo itself was very simplistic. Sometimes it can get lost in the mix. The logo itself was a very simplistic design, and it actually shows to their marketing agency more so than anything else. In maintaining a simple design, it's very easy for the user to understand and kind of navigate to on their phone. And in doing that, they could promote better user experience, better user enhancement, a whole bunch of different assets that could grow Twitter, because essentially it is a business that he is looking to produce revenue from as much as it is a project, a passion project for him.
So when it comes to making any decision, a great practice is to create a simple pros and cons list. So in slide 9, we start with the pros. The first pro is buying and operating a multi-billion-dollar social media company could potentially lead to increased revenue and profitability. Musk has shown in the past he can increase the value of a company's stock, as he's done with Tesla. By being in a CEO or leadership position, Musk has more accessibility to increase the amount of free speech capabilities on Twitter, which was his initial intention. So if you're a person who felt like you were being censored or weren't able to get your opinion heard, Twitter might be a platform for you, and have access to the public sphere. And the third pro is having a background in technology and social media provides support that, as a leader, Musk will elevate Twitter. And with a user base already established and solidified, it provides an easier transition into the company. Now, moving on to slide 10 to go over the cons. Number one, there's a chance the investment of $44 billion will not be profitable, and Musk will suffer significant financial losses because of it. And also, this would affect stakeholders. So Musk is a wealthy man. It may not hurt him as much. And then the second con, in trying to increase the amount of free speech within the site, Musk could become more of a tyrant with regulations and standards than what his initial goal of being an advocate for the people. So some complaints have been that Musk has actually censored opinions that he doesn't agree with. And then the third con is, while he does have a background in technology and social media, there's still the chance that he's unable to transition to a more user interaction-based industry rather than government contracts or industrial car manufacturing, which he has experience in. And moving on to slide 11, our recommendation for Musk is to apply the X-Team framework. So number one, he should continue distributing leadership. He's already done that by hiring the former head of advertising at NBC Universal, Linda Yaccarino. He must continue to acknowledge his limitations and delegate leadership roles. Currently, he has his hand full running multiple companies. And so some of the X-Team capabilities, number one would be sense making. Sense making involves making sense of the context in which the organization is operating, being the eyes that read the opportunities and threats of a changing environment. Clearly, dialogue and frequent communication up and down the organization is key to understanding the organizational terrain, as is communication to outside stakeholders and sources of expertise and new ideas. So, one thing Musk could do would be to hire external consulting companies, and he must listen to their recommendations and be open about them. Number two would be relating. Relating involves developing key relationships within and across organizations and bringing commitment and energy to the task. Trust is central. So Musk did lay off a significant portion of the workforce. He must now establish trust with the current workforce and partner with and build trust with new colleagues that he brings aboard. Third is visioning. He must articulate and clearly establish a vision for the entire company to strive for. And finally, inventing. Twitter has been around for over a decade. Musk obviously loves the platform. Many people do, but it has not come out with too many new inventions. For example, TikTok and Facebook Reels have taken market share. So Twitter needs to invest in research and development and try to come up with new products to take back that market share and increase market share. Additional strategies for the X team would be scouting, ambassadorship, task coordination, extreme execution, explore, exploit, export, and X factors. Another good strategy would be to incorporate SMART goals at every level of the organization. SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And moving on to slide 12, we asked the key question: should Elon have taken over Twitter? While there are varying degrees of public opinion, it can be political over whether or not Elon should have bought Twitter. The facts are as follows. He's a wealthy man and has a history of successfully running companies and inventing companies in the past. He clearly has a passion for the idea of free speech for all opinions and allowing individuals to share their opinions. He believed the way Twitter was operating prior to his purchase was lackluster and politically controversial, noting some of the government dealings with Twitter that apparently occurred under previous management. With a knowledge of technology and social media that is of the highest caliber, there's not much that Elon needs to learn in regards to these things to make an impact at the organization. Regardless of public opinion and the opinion of shareholders, nothing Elon did was illegal. He had the money to purchase it, and it was approved by the government. So he had every right to purchase it. And the more existential question would be then, should he have? And with many initial issues rising from the takeover, from employee cuts, extending hours, losing funds very quickly, and rebanding the entire company, there's plenty of evidence to show this endeavor might have been more than what he bargained for.
Thanks, Matt. I'll jump back in at this point. So in conclusion for us, as we went through this project and this process, Musk buying and then rebranding Twitter has changed the landscape, certainly in America at least, for social media. Twitter does rank far down the list, basically, for platforms that are used. As Matt mentioned, Facebook, Instagram, and a bunch of others, do rank ahead of them. One of the statistics that we came across was 92% of the tweets are generated by 10% of Twitter now X users. So if you're looking at 370 million plus users, there's a small core component, still a big number of 37 to 40 million people that are basically generating the lion's share of the traffic across the platform. The profitability and ethics of purchasing Twitter. I think during the course of this project, again, I think we all would have our own opinions, certainly based on the media and the initial takeover and the way it was handled. But I did find myself sort of changing the more you dig into it and you go, okay, I don't have to agree with the way it was handled, but it's still a question that remains to be answered is, will he ultimately find his place and put X on the path that he wants or that he envisioned? And it's hard to doubt him still at this point. He's had success at a number of other companies, as mentioned earlier. I do think his reputation took a hit with the acquisition of Twitter, and again, the way it was handled. But a year and a half in, a year and a half plus, you're still left with, okay, as depending on the day, maybe he is the richest man in the world, maybe he's not. It's obviously not all his own money that goes into the company. He's got the ability to leverage from the other companies, plus obviously go to the market and get investors to join as well. But it's still a risk. And again, it's going to be time that will tell whether it's successful or not. Internally, we'd have to look and say, yes, the culture needs to change. Again, the dramatic way that people were exited out of the company is still a wound that needs to heal. Bringing in Linda Yaccarino is hopefully a helpful step. Some of the other C-level executives, and if Elon himself can learn to step back, sort of share leadership, and speak to what needs to get done without basically scaring people. It can be a very successful platform. Now, again, politically speaking, it may be for some people and not for others. I think that was one of the big changes was the politics within Twitter. It was viewed as a more liberal, left-leaning sort of platform. Musk has definitely steered it more to the right. But again, what it will be in the long run, who knows? It's we wrote about in the paper, the Hearst Corporation and William Randolph Hearst, highly successful media, magnate back in the 1920s into the 30s, a similar probably type of personality as Musk. And then he sort of got his comeuppance in the late 30s, but that, the Depression had a lot to do with that, obviously. And we can't predict the future. So we left it a little bit open-ended, I think, in terms of, was it the right purchase? Probably, sure, from his standpoint. Will it be a successful purchase? Again, time will tell. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Dan. I think it was a fun exercise. I think we're all happy that we did it. So if you guys have any other further comments? Questions from the audience?
I just want to say thank you guys again. I really appreciate all your guys' hard work and commitment to this. Professor, thank you again for everything you did for the class. Had a lot of fun doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
it was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.